humans, birds alike. Welcome to the Film Alchemist podcast. Yeah, mostly birds. The show where we take the movies we love, break them apart to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my friend, co-host, and the most thirstiest lady who's ever lived,
Alex Dandino. Good Lord.
All right, guys, before we just get swarmed upon, a little bit of business. People, it's official. Your friends here at the Film Alchemist are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. The absolute best way to support the show. The absolute best way to make the show exactly what you want it to be, what you deserve it to be, right? So for as little as $1 a month, you get it, join the community, see what we're doing over there. If you're able to, you climb the Highlander tier ranking systems, and you can actually select the specific movies you want us to cover in a Patreon exclusive library. So we have, an exclusive library. You get a vote on our 2 exclusive extra episodes every month. We got commentaries, mini shows coming out, right? We got lots of good stuff on the feed. So again, that's patreon.com/filmalchemistpodcast. It means the world to us. Those of you who support us, thank you very much. Thank you for those of you who are about to as well. The YouTube channel is Film Alchemist. Subscribe over there. You can see our faces and hear our voices together. It's a powerful combo from the gods. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the social media you're on. We're easy to get a hold of. We love to hear from you guys. And make sure something easy you guys can do. It takes a second. Leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show. On all the platforms you would find the show. Helps us out. Helps us defeat these algorithmic avian tears that are fucking with us.
Or human.
Or humans. They're both just not great, as we learned. But, we want to reach all of them together, right? Our bird overlords, we want to do a show that you like as well. So, yes. 5 stars, rating, review, wherever you find the show. Setting the mood.
That was way more bird-like than the birds in this movie.
All right. As you guys know, we're bringing it back. This is an anniversary month for the pod. We're bringing it back to where the show all started. Many Julys ago, we started this show, and our first curation was one near and dear to our hearts. Animals Attack the Pod, right? I think because we really wanted to talk about Orca, but it was a great month. It was really fun. We had so much fun that the show we kind of started on a whim when we were doing another show. We started this show, and this show consumed us because we had so much fun with that. So we thought for the anniversary, the 4-year anniversary of our show, 400-some episodes down the road, if you can believe it, we'd return to the scene of the crime, the animal crime. Do they have animal detectives? Maybe.
Just one.
I was going to say Lance Hendrickson and Man's Best Friend, but he's not an animal detective.
Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura. There you go.
Come on.
God, just missing easy ones. I can't see through the flocks of The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. Today's Animal Attack movie. I have to say up front, I only remember images of this movie from childhood, I guess.
Interesting.
It'd been a long time, but The Birds is a weird movie to me because of all the animals we've talked about, I think birds are by far the pussiest animal ever in an animal attack movie. I know you'll say, are birds weaker than slugs? No, but slugs by their nature are creepy and they're slimy and they gross us out. What about ants or spiders? Well, okay, birds might be tougher in the, the food chain, but we are naturally more repulsed by insects, right?
Of course.
Birds are huge wusses. They weigh next to nothing. Their bones are frail and thin. Even if you take them back to dinosaur days, right? That's how far back you have to go since anyone was afraid of a bird.
Right.
Actually, come to find out, I have 2 friends that are deathly terrified of birds, which is a really weird thing to know. So I think what's funny about this movie is the outsized amount of fear I remember having of this movie, considering it has the weakest animal subject of any movie we may cover in this series. And I think it's a great testament to the powerful filmmaking of one Alfred Hitchcock, obviously. So, Alex, I don't know when the last time you had caught up with The Birds was, but what are your opening thoughts on this film?
I feel like I somehow watch this movie like every year. I don't know why. It is like
you just do a check-in.
It's like one of my favorite Hitchcock movies.
Really?
For a lot of reasons. Mainly for the reasons that like no one watches it, which I think it's fucking hilarious. For all the reasons that you've listed, which is birds are just like complete wusses. to the rest of us. Something about that is like so entertaining to me that all these baffling individuals in Bodega Bay, California. If there's ever been a movie about the demise of coastal elites, it's definitely the birds. But I mean, ultimately, I like that it is this like the terror of nature and and the thing that I like the most about it is it's the terror of nature and the wanton disregard for the explanation as to why. Like, I think that's what makes a great animal attack movie. And the ones we've watched this month, obviously, like Jaws is a great example. Jaws is just about killer instinct, in a lot of ways. What's great about the birds is it's literally unprovoked. Like, everyone has these wild, like, ridiculous theories, like, towards the middle of the movie that, like, make no sense. I'm like, are you just guessing? Like, what is the matter with you? But, like, it's such a
Not
strange
great
thing.
scientific minds in Bodega.
Not a lot of science going into the thoughts of how the birds. But, yeah, like, there's just something so terrifying about the unknowable thing about it all. That's what's actually scary, not the birds themselves.
Right. Well, I think it gets to your point, right? The best thing about an animal attack movie is we've created this world. We've agreed on a society. A lot of us do jobs that make us want to die early. We just keep doing it to pay bills, to buy shit we don't need, right? We've organized society in this giant, tower of cards, right?
Right.
And then when nature just comes in and says, hey, fuck you guys, how fast it crumbles, right? How fast all of these illusions are just gone. And you're like, oh, fuck, we're one of the animals out here. We're prey now. And I think one of the thing in particular about the birds being pussies in this movie, and it's not like, this is not a town that's descended upon by like bald eagles.
No.
Right? These are not, as Napoleon Dynamite would say, creatures with razor sharp talons, right?
No.
These are all like the most meek animals in their groups,
yeah, like
right?
if this was a movie about like albatrosses trying to destroy a city, be like, whoa, cool.
Yeah.
This is like the literal first bird attack we see is a seagull who just like strikes a lady who doesn't need to be there.
I mean, I do have a theory that it is all her fault for driving recklessly in that boat. She hits the bird.
It's absolutely
the bird goes back
her
and he's
fault.
like, this motherfucker, she ran me off, and they're like, say what? And then they all just descend upon. Neither here nor there,
We'll get to
though,
that.
right? I think there is this great, I think what the birds do is that, again, they are very innocuous to us. And the movie takes this thing where it juxtaposes people and things in our lives that we take, for granted, right? Schools, our own house, a birthday party. Mm-hmm. And it just juxtaposed these wimpy animals, right? That we're not afraid of at all. And the movie does such a great job of earning tension that by the end of the movie, every time you hear a bird or see a bird just sitting on something, the amount of tension without really much backing, right? Not a lot of music, just this cacophony of bird sounds, right? There is this real fear. There is a strange image in this film that we see constantly. The whole last 10 minutes of the movie is essentially this buff, just chick magnet of a man, right? Which we'll get to. Just this like, what is going on with this guy? Yeah. Just sneaking around for fear that birds are going to beat him up. And it is stunning to watch us cower as prey to these meek and weak animals, right? Because I was saying this, right? My yard, we have all these flower baskets and all this shit, and every year my yard is besieged by birds.
Right.
That make nests and all. As I watch this today, a nest behind my head, right, on the porch behind my couch, had just hatched. So there's all these baby birds chirping the whole time I watched it.
Right.
And I see these birds, right? We have little swallows all over our place. And I was like, how many fucking swallows would you have to lock me in a room with where I could not survive that attack? I was like, let's say I had rec specs on like Horace Grant so they couldn't peck my eyes out. And I had shorts on so they couldn't bite my nuts off. Or peck my nuts off, I guess. There's not a lot of scrotum skin. They could peck through that. But I was like, how many fucking swallows would it take to beat me in a man versus nature fight? And I was like, I think like 10,000. Because honestly, if I just rolled around in a circle or like slammed into a wall, every bird that got caught between my body and the wall is just crushed and maimed.
Sure.
And every peck does what? Next to no damage? So I don't know. I mean, it's very, it's a strange place to put us beneath such meek and wussy animals.
So I remember probably the first.
How many swallows would it take to get to the center of the Dandino pop?
Not 10,000. I'm a pussy. Like, it would probably take
But you're big.
maybe 10. I don't know.
You're a big man. You're a big man. No 10 birds are going to squash you.
I don't know. Actually, the one. So here's this. I did want to point this out.
Can we get a mathematical equation of the weight of a swallow versus the thickness of scrotum skin? We need some graphs if we're making this game.
I was going to ask you, did you ever have to read the short story this is based on?
Never.
Okay. When I was in high school, this was a short story. It was a weird thing that we read this in high school. I remember being like, wait, is this what the movie's based on? And my teacher said yes. We read the short story. I'll be honest, I don't remember anything about the short story. I know it's very different from the movie. And actually, this is based on something that Alfred Hitchcock read about happening in a city called Capitola. Where
they mentioned that the seagulls got confused and shit. Yeah.
So in Capitola, like basically they woke up one morning and these birds were like dive bombing into houses.
Yeah.
And like hawking up like half digested anchovies and shit. But they found out the reason that happened was because they had all ingested toxic algae, apparently.
Gross.
Now,
dude, I have birds hit my window at full speed. It is startling.
This happened. That happened actually when I lived in Noblesville as a kid. We had a huge skylight in our living room, and one day an owl just blew himself up. Yeah, flew right into the window, and it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. So we read the short story in high school. We watched the movie, and I think that was the first time. Like, I had seen the birds when I was much younger. This was the first time I was registering it as like a movie that I was like, oh wow, that's kind of cool. That's an interesting idea. Like the terror of nature, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So much so that I enjoyed it, and actually, the annals of the internet probably have buried it. But my thesis film before I left college was about bands on tour. And one of the bands I actually named after this movie was this like the idea is the characters are in this shitty hardcore band called Melanie Daniels Evil. Because I don't know, like we had like when I was in bands in high school and college, like some of these band names were just so bad. Like one of the ones that I always remember was there was a hardcore band called Norma Jean, which was based on that's Marilyn Monroe's real name. And I was like, why would anyone think that would be a hardcore band name? Like anything, like you could just call your band Blood and that would be infinitely cooler.
It was kind of the unnamed secret of the hardcore scene that none of the guys or bands seemed particularly hardcore.
They were definitely not hardcore.
It was like a bunch of like little soft boys with weird hair that are like, probably taking this.
I think the closest you got to like guys who were legit were probably in that general vein was like Killswitch Engage. Those dudes like looked like they could actually fuck people.
They got adopted into the larger metal community. Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah. They were able to like cross, but like the rest of them were all like very swoopy haircuts with girl pants. So
I guess that's a good way to like keep birds off you. Just flip your fucking hair.
Just flip your little hair.
Yeah.
But
that's do these people not have brooms or a shovel? Like, you could fucking kill three birds with every fucking swing. All right,
personal stories aside, can we please start talking about the insane residents of Bodega Bay?
Okay, there's a lot of human we have to get to, strangely enough, I had forgotten about. I want to actually start with a different question for you.
Sure.
Something that struck me today is I felt like this was a weird choice for Hitchcock to make into a movie. Especially at this phase. He's obviously known as the master of suspense, right?
Right.
A lot of murder mysteries, this kind of thing. What do you think about this one particularly got Hitchcock engaged? What in this movie presented where he's like, that is something that my set of talents need to make? Why birds?
I think because what you can do is what you were talking about, which is it's the tension.
Yeah.
The tension you can put into a movie like this. Now, if you had just called it The Birds, this is a really important thing about like when movies were coming out this came out in 1963. Mm-hmm. When movies were coming out, they were just titled things. Invaders from Mars, like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, all these kinds of movies that like spoke very plainly about what the movie
Not
was.
A lot of subtlety, subterfuge in the titles.
If you had put a movie out called The Birds, no one would fucking see it because people were like, I don't need to watch a 2-hour movie about birds. I know what birds look like. But if you stick Alfred Hitchcock's name on the front of it, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Everyone's like, whoa, shit. What is he doing in this?
Well,
what is
this
he
feels
doing
like
in this
the
weird
1950s
genre?
movie, right? Oh, my fucking canary got out and drank toxic waste, and now it's 30 feet tall and murdering like Mayberry. I did wonder, because obviously his ability to draw suspense is really highlighted near the end of the film, right? To be fair, though, there's not really like a large-scale bird assault until like 50 minutes into this movie. So to me, there's something about this town and this world that really was alluring to him.
The preamble is very much about how slutty Tippi Hedren's character is.
Well, there's a famous, like, this is one of those, they made that whole movie about how Hitchcock was essentially...
It was called The Girl. He essentially
sexually
assaulted her
constantly, yeah.
And
when she rebuffed him, there was that horrifying bit in that movie where, you know, she rebuffs his advances. Mm-hmm. His wife always worked really close with them. It was very strange, right? And Hitchcock just made her keep doing that thing where they had the birds and the bird net. When she breaks into that upstairs attic room, and he just made her keep doing it and doing it and doing it. So she was physically breaking, and he was watching it gleefully, like punishing her. Now, again, this is a movie dramatization. I don't know the facts behind that. I'm assuming it's based on something if they wrote that book, but
yeah, I mean, it's pretty well documented, like what he did to her.
Yeah,
like there's nothing about there's nothing about that. One, again, we all know that, like, Alfred Hitchcock is one of the most important filmmakers in film history.
Yeah,
he was a lecherous dick who also like constantly sexually assaulted women, like a lot. Yeah. It's like well documented in a lot of ways, like so. For that to be like, that's the big controversy of The Birds, is that it almost like ruined Tippi Hedren, because Tippi Hedren literally like he put not just sexual humiliation, but also like literally it put her through abuse to the point where she was like getting cut on the face and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. To think about the behind the scenes stuff, right? But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what drew him, right? Just these predatory looming figures just staring at these poor people.
There's a lot of analysis in the movie, like maybe it has a lot to do with there's some like film scholars who think that the movie's about like
other film scholars. We're film scholars, let's be real.
The actual film scholars.
I have a smoking jacket.
There's some people who believe that the movie's about female sexuality and the repression of it.
Wow. Gee. Well, okay, because I was about to voice something later, and I was like, that feels like one of those things where you just want people to know you go to film school. Like, absolutely not in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, like,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, you can surmise whatever. Like, I think production notes aside, you can surmise that probably Tippi Hedren's character, it's weird. I never remember her name. Melanie Daniels, which is weird because I put it in a movie. What you can surmise is that Melanie probably has something to do with this, but that is such an ethereal concept and so metaphysical. Like, the concept is so odd to blame this woman for coming to town and fucking up everyone's shit that, you know, really what's interesting is, like, at the point when people start to actually blame her, it almost is inconsequential. It's like, well, she's here now and she's not leaving. So, like, we have to, just deal with it. It's a very interesting
if you reimagine the movie, right, it's like, hey, you want some tea? Yeah, and then all of a sudden just, like, levitating vaginas were exploding out of your fireplace.
That's certainly a way that you could put it that way, sure.
Directed by Alec Garland. I mean, I'd watch that movie, too. But no, I would watch Alex there Garland is something really, because I was watching it today, and I essentially forgot the whole fucking preamble of why she's in Bodega Bay. I just remembered, it's two, like, really fucking square-looking white people fall in love. They're by some water, and I always remember the movie to me mostly starts with, like, the birds at the school, right? Or that seagull hovering down over the burning town. That's the images that stick. This whole introduction, right? The worst meet cute of all time, which is she's buying a bird as a joke on her straight-laced aunt, right? She's going to teach a bird to say 4-letter words.
Yeah.
He comes in and doesn't really want lovebirds. He just wants to tell her that he thinks she should be in jail for being a prankster.
Yeah.
She takes it on herself to use daddy's newspaper men to stalk him.
I had forgotten he was a lawyer.
So not only this, she fucking buys the lovebirds for his sister, creepily.
Weird.
Takes them to his apartment. The neighbor guy's like, well, he always goes to Bodega Bay. And she's like, yeah, I'll drive 3 hours up the fucking PCH.
How thirsty can you be? My goodness,
I was like,
Melanie Daniels.
This is the chain of events, right? Because she's saying this like, oh, it's just for a laugh. She takes a 3-hour car ride after stalking this man and getting his info.
Yeah.
Up to Bodega Bay, charters a fucking boat, goes and pesters a school teacher on her day off to get the name so she can teach the birds to say the name, presumably, right? Uses this fucking boat, glides across like Jason Bourne, cuts it off and paddles in when she sees him go to the barn, breaks into his fucking home. Also, she can have that moment where he looks out at the binoculars and he drives to town like his fucking ass is on fire. And she has this great Tippi Hedren smile, right? Like, got you, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the most bananas introduction to a character I've seen in a long time.
It's super problematic in a lot of ways. But most importantly, she is a full-blown stalker. Like, there's like a million dudes in San Francisco. You're telling me none of them can hold socialite Melanie Daniels' attention?
What we learn, right, is when she talks to the school teacher, she also has been holding a candle for this guy for a long time.
She's got a thing for...
Another really kind of sad subplot
Mitch.
of the movie is, like, she moved up there just to be close to this guy that doesn't love or want her, and she's still friends with his overly strangling mom.
Yeah.
But she has this line, right, where she's like, yeah, I met Mitch in San Francisco. He goes, they all meet Mitch in San Francisco or whatever. It's like, how often does this guy,
Dude,
the magnetism of his sexual prowess draws these women 3 hours down the coast?
It seems like Mitch Brenner is just sexual napalm, and these women are just following the burning trail all the way to Bodega Bay.
If the character in Fresh, played by Sebastian Stan, didn't have a snack issue, that's what's happening. It's almost like he only leaves San Francisco to see who really wants it, right? Like a coach throwing one football out and saying, fight for it. Who wants to be the captain?
He lives in San Francisco, and he only goes to Bodega Bay to
every fucking weekend.
Hang out with his overbearing mother, and it's his sister Kathy, which again we're not going to get
27 years younger than him.
Yeah, I mean, again, Jessica Tandy plays Mitch Brenner's
She was a
mom.
mistake,
and I don't know what I mean. Again, Jessica Tandy looks old enough. You're like, there's no way that this reproduction is working right now. But all right,
it's all very strange because you're like, he doesn't look much younger than his mom. The youngest girl's like 10. It looks like. I don't know. It's a very
she's
strange
turning
family
so
setup.
Kathy's turning 11. That's like the thing.
11. That's right. Yeah, it's the human in this movie is fucking bizarre.
They are.
And the mom who just immediately hates on Melanie, she's in the gossip columns.
Yeah.
She does this thing where she's
party
like,
girl.
It's not an Oedipus thing. She just likes him too much, and you're like, it's a fucking Oedipus thing.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure, it's an Oedipal thing. There's just that tragic scene when she's like, you're with this person and they have so much strength, and then they're gone and all the strength is gone and you're still here. And I was like, oh, she's just a lady who misses her husband. But then there's like, dude, there is some weird sexual politicking in this movie. How about this scene? The birds attack, right? The vaginas fly out of the fucking the birds fly out of the fireplace.
Absolutely.
They fuck up her tea party. They tilt the picture of her husband, right? There is so much leering eye woman to woman in this movie, right? Maybe that's the sexual awakening of women, right? Threatened by each other. She's watching as the cop's like, well, there could have been lights on. Maybe the birds got ruffled by the children, right? He's doing his fucking I know shit, I have a badge. She's watching this lady bounce around the room. This lady who clearly does not like her and has no interest in her. Who she's heard from Annie doesn't like anyone coming for Mitch, right?
Right.
She's watching her adjust the picture of the father, right? And I was like, this is the moment she's going to be like, I feel bad for this poor lady. No, she says, how about I take Kathy upstairs to bed and shack up here? And the mom's just like, what? Like it happens under her nose.
It's like a Scooby-Doo thing.
She's like, she's like, there's sex in my home, right? She's like, I got birds and sex everywhere.
I need
the
it
next
for
morning,
sexy energy.
The next morning, right? Tippi Hedren gets up. She's like, oh, I went to bed fresh as hell. Like, she's popping up, like, ready, right? She doesn't have a bathroom there. She's got, like, a water bowl. She's already looking fresh to death in her, like, fucking old lady pajamas. She watches the mom drive into town to drop the kid off at school. She smiles and starts flicking her hair like, oh, now I can get a body. Because mom's, I'm gonna fuck your son in your house right while dad watches from the portrait. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
These people. I don't know. What do you make of this, though? The leering of people, like the women leering at each other in this man's orbit. It is right there.
Well, like, okay, I love Annie, the teacher who has just stuck there. Like, she's
one broke my heart. I forgot about her.
She's the best character in this movie because she understands that they're not, like, her and Mitch aren't going to get down.
Yeah.
Like, that's not going to happen. Like, she clearly is, like, been, like, scorched earth person for a while. And what's interesting is, like, she's not trying to save Melanie from, like, that scenario. She's just like, I'll just be friends with this lady who's probably going to fuck this guy I love. And, like, that's...
You think she's getting in the back door? Well, if I'm her friend, maybe I'll get to stand next to her at the wedding.
Yeah, like, if I'm her friend, maybe we can, like...
That's sad.
But that's, like, the character, though, to me. Like, for me, what
Well,
Annie
she says that line, right? I stay here because I don't want to lose his friendship. And I was like, that's fucking brutal.
It's sad. Like, but that's what makes Annie's like ultimate sacrifice so much worse. It's just like, God damn, you should have just gotten out of town. Like, the minute shit started going here, but she's like, she's the teacher. She's like looking after all these kids. Like, there's something very noble. It's like, she's the only noble person in the entire town. Everybody else is such dog shit. Like, Mitch,
she literally dies shoving Mitch's kid sister in the house.
Mitch is
just, like,
such
lets the birds peck her 20,000 times.
Yeah, Mitch is such a douchebag. Like, the entire, like, again, that opener of him, not the opening scene.
Can you blame Mitch for what he is, though?
Yeah.
If women drive 3 hours to break into your house to get your attention, that has to... You remember, there's a Bill Murray quote, right? Another guy mutated by fame, it sounds like. But he said when you get famous or you get a bunch of money, right, you got 6 months to decide if you can maintain being normal or if it's going to change and mutate you. If you, Alex Dandino, came home and you're like, fuck, someone just put, like, 2 boxes of Sour Patch Kids and a dildo on my table...
Right.
With, like, a nice letter stock, that would change who you are. That would change your very nature.
It would not change my very nature. First off, I don't know why those are the items, but...
Well, I don't know. I was thinking of a meet cute. You're at, like, the fucking Pleasure Cove. And you're like, I like sweet and sour. And she's like, got it. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, you're telling me if women
What a
broke
weird
into
meet cute you've constructed.
Not weirder than this movie, the Bird Store Hangout. I'm just saying, if women showered you in gifts like you were a conquering Conan the Barbarian, it changes the way you walk through the world.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what I wouldn't do is, like, dangle that carrot and say, guess where I'm going? Bodega Bay with my moms.
I don't think he can do anything. I think the carrot's dangled. I don't think he can do anything.
It's just such a weird thing because, like, to me, the movie shouldn't be about, like, the movie is inciting incident, and that's not to say that it's when Tippi Hedren gets hit in the head with a seagull. But
I'm not blaming her for what happened in this movie like everyone else does.
Oh no, I'm fully blaming her for what happens in this movie. But what I'm saying is the inciting incident of, like, first off, Mitch is a lawyer. Like, he is a man of the law. And his initial is like, you know what I'm going to do? I know a thing or two about this lady. I'm going to fuck with her and see if I can like, he drags it out of her. I think that's the bigger issue too. Is like, he uses this, like, sexual magnetism he has to get this woman to, like, follow him 3 hours when he knows full well that she's trouble, man. She causes all kinds of problems. Like, she does not stop fucking around wherever she goes. Her thing is practical jokes.
You know what? That's kind of like a subplot of the film. I'm like, I need a little more on that. I know you got pushed naked into the fountain. Oh, you had clothes on. Fine. They kind of hint at, like, that was a wild Roman holiday, right? And I'm like, I need a little more on this. And now she's like, I'm trying to do better in the world. Well, 2 days a week.
Yeah. Well,
We throw some money at a charity. It's fine.
The other 5, I'm just partying.
What I'm saying is, though, is Mitch has that vibe of, I'm sure we all have friends from our past. We grew up in a little bit rougher era as far as
sure
the way people treated others, right?
Absolutely.
Even when I was in high school, there was not a lot of consideration for, the other sex, other orientations. It was just a rougher time.
Yeah.
So you would hear things like this all the time. And I'd be like, hey, man, I have a crush on this girl. What should I do? And inevitably, one guy you knew would say, treat a girl like dirt. She'll stick to you like mud.
Yep, absolutely.
And in your brain, you'd go, smart. Right? And that's just how fucking stupid we were.
In your brain, you'd go smart, and then, like, you do it, and it would fail epically. Like, maybe not as good as I thought. That's not great advice, I guess.
If I had a time machine and could take me and my dick back to the 90s and just be the guy that didn't think that worked, I probably wouldn't be here today. There'd be no podcast because I would have drowned. I would have been like the girl in the Ring video, just drowning in fucking sex. You know what I mean? But no, that is a legitimate thought process of course, these were guys who told me they had gotten laid and I hadn't. So I'm like,
right, of course.
they got laid. Like, to me, that was like the Ark of the Covenant. I'm like,
I remember always being, you know what's interesting? It's funny you bring this up. I remember always being fascinated. I had a friend.
Isn't it insane, though?
I had a friend. Okay, now that we're really talking about this.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I was not this person in high school at all. But I did have a friend who, like, our freshman year of high school, he got laid our freshman year. I was like, whoa, that's really cool, you know?
Yeah.
And he was, like, really stoked about it. He treated his girlfriend like shit. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I want to go hang out with the guys. Like, that kind of stuff. Like, never, like, and he never had a problem finding dates, never had a problem with girlfriends, that kind of thing. And I never understood it, but maybe this is the key that I'm missing. Now that I've watched The Birds again, the key is, if you're Mitch Brenner, it's just something that can't be taught. It is a pheromone, and in that regard,
got extra bones.
Maybe what's going on, maybe the reason the birds are in Bodega Bay is not necessarily just because of Melanie Daniels, but it is the sexual chemistry, the pheromones combining in the air.
The cloacas, yeah.
Maybe
they unfurl their cloacas and they're like, we got to go deathmate with this
I
guy.
think it's both of them. Both of them are causing this because of their wild indiscretion.
Wow.
Maybe that's
so. You think the farmer fucked Mitch?
I think the farmer.
I think the farmer was fucking Mitch.
No, I don't think. Well, he could have been. I guess. I don't
That's
know.
why the birds got him. It
was the '60s. It was a wild time, man. You could do anything.
The birds got him first. They're like, he's reaping more than we sow. They fucking pecked the farmer's eyes out because he got to see Mitch naked before them. Like, I don't know, man. I do think there is some. I know we're just doing this time travel like personal thing. It was wild to me how many of me and my friends thought the best way to get girlfriends was to be as douchey as possible.
Right. Yeah.
It's fucking insane.
I think about it a lot. Well, not that a lot. I do want to.
So, birds. No. Go for it.
I do want to move on real quick and say the sound of the birds.
Yes.
Is the most terrifying sound in this entire movie. Like, there's not a lot of score in this film. This is a really important thing. Like, there's not a lot of score in this film, but those bird noises are. I think I looked this up. They're made on a synthesizer for one.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, like a lot of the sound effects, but like the bird calls were done on this electroacoustic instrument called a mixture tritonium. If you look it up, it's like
sounds like a very hip Italian restaurant.
Yeah, if you look it up, it's a huge it looks like a huge Moog board, but like it's the weirdest. It's the most like unsettling sound in the entire. Yeah, it's the most unsettling thing in the entire movie is the sound of these birds.
Well, they do this great job earning tension, right? So the start of the movie is like birds chaotically flapping around the credits, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the movie starts, and we just that bird song is what carries us through the transition, right? Right, and all of a sudden, Tippi Hedren's looking up at the sky. And I remember being like, that's a fucking ton of seagull sounds for wherever the fuck they are, San Fran or whatever. That's like a lot of seagull. Then we go into this bird shop, and it's constant, right? And I think what it does is it sets you in this how omnipresent birds are in our life. At one point they talk about there might be like 100 billion birds on Earth.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever the math is. How many birds we'd have to kill each to survive, right? How many grown-ups are there? How many birds each we have to kill to win this war? Probably half their neither here nor there. We're not going to do it. We need another fucking chart, right? Birds per overweight adult man murders, right? Chart it out. Let's get some math going.
Let's do it, guys.
But there is this omnipresence of the birds, right? Mm-hmm. And again, this is a subtle trick that Jaws employs too, right? It gives you these little clues, and then it goes quiet. And in that quiet, your mind is conjuring terrors. Because again, I'm not scared of getting attacked by 100 crows. And I know everyone listening is saying 100 crows will fuck you up. Maybe. But I'll tell you, I never would lose a wink of sleep. Right? If I had to choose an animal to fight, crows would be pretty high on my list. I think that's fine. But there's that wonderful scene when she's outside of the schoolhouse, right? And the kids are singing this, like, you know, fucking folksy song, whatever the fuck it is. And she sits out, she's lighting a smoke. And behind her, we just see one bird quietly land on that thing, right? Mm-hmm. Cuts back to her. She's doing her shit. The song continues. Another bird silently lands. When we cut back and the kid's song is about over, there's just like 100 birds there. Yeah. And they're not doing shit. But the fact that they're draped all over that swing set behind her without her knowing, there is so much fear built up in you subconsciously. It's wonderful. Probably
the best. It's probably one of the, I mean, it's a blueprint tension building thing. Like, this is why Alfred Hitchcock is one of the greatest directors of all time, is because this is like a kind of like tension build that is mimicked and repeated over and over again because it's so simple. Mm-hmm. And the three things this woman's sense of urgency / terror, mm-hmm. these birds that are accumulating because you don't know what they're doing, they're just sitting there, they're lying in wait, all of it juxtaposed by these children singing. Mm-hmm. There's a level that is so terrifying to that. Like, it's actually, but like before I went to college, my dad actually bought me this like filmmaking book, and that scene is in the book, in the editing section about how to build tension with an edit. Like, it's honestly like of all movies, it is like one of the most perfect scenes in a movie.
Well, it's just brilliant, right? There's this subtle, you know, nature's just happening without us paying attention.
Right.
We think we're invulnerable to whatever's next, this sense of safety. Now it's invading things like a school and a playground. So, we also can't keep our children safe.
Right.
There's a lot of fucking fear happening in that moment. In those moments shine, right? When the kids run out and the birds are like, caw, 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 you're like, all right, well, you can't even beat up a fucking 10-year-old. I'm really not scared. The birds take out exactly 0 people on camera that we see. Right? There's an old farmer who dies in his PJs. Like, that scene is terrifying because he doesn't answer. She goes to the house. You know something's coming.
Really gross.
The carnage of the birds, like, dead in the room and then seeing the feet and the eyes pecked down. It does that, like, Frankenstein 3-cut.
Yeah.
That scene is fucking scary. And, again, this is a lesson learned by a lot of animal attack movies down the road. There's no way they could have showed us that, and it's cool. By showing us the very still aftermath, the actual literal death of something that we never saw, it's so much more frenetic and chaotic and scary in our minds, right? We don't see Annie die because, again, it would look stupid if she's throwing taxidermied crows around. Mm-hmm. If we just hear she blocked the door and birds, you know, dive-bombed her and she died, and we just see her left on the front lawn like trash.
Right.
Like she's nothing to anyone. That shit is fucking horrifying in this movie. That's the kind of thing that the omnipresence of these birds is what works. Now, here's the film student thing I hinted at earlier, right? And this was something I noticed with Annie, is there's a real sense of loneliness in this film, right?
Yeah.
And that this movie really hones in on, and the birds kind of make this nice metaphor about the way we see people without a flock just being vulnerable and terrorized, right? Is that anyone who's by themselves, right? We see the mom in the diner who's scared with her 2 kids. No dad around, right? Mitch's mom. Dad not there, right? Tippi Hedren. A father who's only on the phone but isn't actually doing anything to help. She's running around the world just pranking and doing B&Es
Right,
to get B's and J's. You know what I mean? It's a wild series of events. But everyone in the film feels like they are somewhat loners or outcasts, right?
Totally.
And watching how vulnerable we can become to just a mass of organisms that don't have that emotion. They don't have that fear of loneliness, right? They just flock together and overwhelm us. I don't know, maybe it's like where I'm at headspace wise as I age. And again, this thing where I'm like, I'm sure Hitchcock was not, oh, let's do some loneliness metaphors, right? Maybe he was. Maybe this is something I'm film studenting in.
I don't think you're wrong. Like, I mean, it's not necessarily about loneliness, it's otherness. It is, right. At least that's how I
There are no safety in numbers for these characters. Right. They're all alone.
And I think the other thing, like once we get into the portion of the movie that I think is the funniest, which is like my favorite sequence is when they go to the, like between the phone booth and the restaurant, some of the funniest shit I've ever seen in movies. But
well, it's like what caused the big explosion in town? A dude smoking a cigar. The person didn't do shit.
That man's lighting a cigar, and then like also it is like it's one of my all-time favorite editing sequences when
I love that, dude.
That's so
the cut
great.
to Tippi Hedren like frozen
as she's like
frozen
watching
in a
the
zoo.
fire. Yeah,
I love awesome. That cut. But see, this is one of those things we kind of hinted at a couple weeks ago, right? I can't remember what we were talking about. We talked about one of the things that I love about Hitchcock is his filmmaking tricks are so naked.
Yeah, on
the screen. He doesn't do this invisible hand thing where he wants to build a reality and we feel like we're immersed. That cut is so abrasive. But so stylistic, right? These frozen moments of terror, it so pulls you out of the idea that you're in an immersive real moment, right? Of birds descending on a town. But I think what is so wonderful is that they never stop the film, right? These really weird choices. I love that fucking cut, right? What do you make of how he still pulls us in emotionally, even though we can see the fuck? It's like these magicians, right? That do these fucking tricks.
Right.
If you can see the trick right away, the magician doesn't have a job.
Right.
We know he's tricking us, but we still like the show.
I mean, that's the point. It's like you're supposed to enjoy the show. Like what he's doing is drawing attention to filmmaking makes you pay more attention to the characters in the movie. So, like when these birds are starting to come together and they're like coordinating attacks and making sure they're like knocking out the fucking gas station attendant so that like doing these things, and then on the inside of these buildings, all these people are panicking and turning on each other and becoming true animals.
Yeah.
It's a really important juxtaposition to get us to the final piece of the movie. But I think that's the thing I always gravitate towards, particularly in that moment, is all these people are starting to just like, you can't predict nature. So when nature happens, I talk about this with my wife a lot. Like for me, like we can't just like, especially as parents, for me now, like we can't just be reactive people. Like we have to be proactive and like play with our kid, teach them right from wrong, those kinds of things. I think with nature, you can't proactively prevent certain things from happening. Obviously, that's a climate change conversation we're not going to have in this pod. But there is
because it's a hoax.
There's a lot of reactivity to the nature that occurs in our world.
Yeah.
So, and when our reaction is, holy shit, I don't know what's going on, but I need an explanation for it, you're going to point to the otherness of the whole thing. So why would it not, like loneliness and otherness and all these other things that are created, why would it not, that's the emotional core of the movie moving forward. So what you don't have to do is hide those like editing techniques or those beats. What you can do is make it a presentational movie, and it's still completely engrossing emotionally.
Yeah. Because I think him and Kubrick do this a lot, right? Where it's really out there that they're so masterful that they'll get you no matter what, right?
Right.
But that scene you talked about was really fascinating. That's one of my favorite scenes watching it today, was that scene in the diner. It's literally just grown-ups saying, I don't buy it. Like an attack happened just down the road, the third or fourth one in a day or two. Kids are being attacked. And there's just some old lady who's like, finally, I've been waiting my whole life to busk knowledge on some poor saps. And she just takes the stage and starts dropping bird stats. Birds flocking together? I doubt it. Right?
Yeah.
There's 1 billion birds are here to bring. I'm like
there just
how
so
many
happens to
times
be an
has she
ornithologist.
practiced? Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times has she practiced that speech, right? She's just at home. And she's like, Harold, do you want to go for a nice walk on the beach? She's like, get out of here, bitch. She's like, all right. And she just goes outside and says bird stuff to, like, you know, the beach. Or she's at church and she's like, you know what's also great besides God? Birds. Are like, beat it, Dolores. She's like, all right. Right? So she just goes to work. She's like, I have this great wealth of knowledge to share with someone. Right? It's like in Jaws. Hooper had to fucking go to that island and yell at people, right?
Right.
She just didn't do that. But she walks into this diner and all of a sudden she's like, holy shit. She's like, lady, I don't care how scared your kids are. Let me start dropping bird soliloquies. And I love it, dude. Because that's just great, right? It's kind of the whole spectrum, right? I know the science lady, but she refuses to accept new information. You got the old guy who's like, yep, it's the end of the world. It's the Bible. You got the drunk salesman who's just talking shit, right?
Yep.
Then you got these two people in the middle who are like, we went through something. We should do this. Other lady who's like, stop. Let's pretend it's not real. All the while, the birds are slowly descending outside of the restaurant. If anyone's like, hey, let's post a bird lookout, right? Get those fucking binoculars you use to find out which of the San Fran ladies is leaving panties on your coffee table and look for a fucking bird.
Right.
Everyone goes indoors and this fucking whole movie doesn't happen, right? Or you just leave town and this doesn't happen. The arrogance of us as a species is so on Front Street here.
Yes.
And again, this gets to the fucking flock thing. We have no movement together, right? Our natural thing is we know what's right. Every human, no matter how philosophical or altruistic they think they are, knows in their very soul, somewhere deep down, whether they want to admit it or not, they are the most important creature on planet Earth. And all of this is here for us, right? And our amusement. And people will say, no, that's not true. It's just the way we're wired. It's built into our genetic code that we know that we're the most important person and all of it moves around us. So when you see a bunch of people have that moment where I got to get the best deal out of this for me, and that starts colliding, it's really interesting. Again, we're not a flock, right? When she's in that phone booth and that guy's just running around lonely with birds clawing him. Or in the diner, I love that beat today. That was such a great shot, that head-on of her just like doing that lady
evil.
From the Mist thing.
Yeah. Evil!
Who are you? Where did you come from? She doesn't even think she's a human being anymore.
Yeah, no,
Who
she
brought
just
this
thinks
with you?
she's evil incarnate. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like oh my God, it doesn't take that long. Again, for the house of cards to come down and we're like, who do we got to kill and throw into the ocean so these fucking birds stop eating us? Right? We're always this far away from throwing a virgin in a volcano. No matter how far we've come, and no matter how many fucking sweaters we wear in the middle of summer, if push comes to shove, a huge percentage of us would throw someone in a volcano to get on to tomorrow.
Yes.
And this movie just nakedly lays that out in a way that I absolutely love. Because that's the thing. It's not just nature with like Jaws, right? It's just the world wants to eat you, right? No matter how fucking safe your town may be. This is the world and people and no one loves you. This is a very fucking dark and nihilistic movie at its very core. You don't matter at all to people or birds.
I mean,
I'm just saying, come at me on that one.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Do you think that the godlike narrator of this film gives a fuck about any person on that screen?
I find it highly indisputable. I think that the godlike character watching this movie doesn't give a shit about anybody else, as evidenced
taking away behind the production stuff we know.
As evidenced by, honestly, the end of the movie where like no one's safe. Like the indoor is no longer safe. The whole thing becomes a mess, and it leads up to literally like Tippi Hedren saves Kathy, but it is like this thing where it is like this sacrifice, like not her own, like she's not being selfless or anything like that. But what it is like, it's the comeuppance. That's a good way to put it. I think if I said it
Nature's
in a way
comeuppance?
Maybe nature's comeuppance or her comeuppance for being a creepy stalker. I'm not really sure. It's interesting because like she's so.
It's not creepy stuff. I mean, it's technically breaking like multiple laws.
Yeah,
But
like
again,
but
Alex, if
Mitch,
you came home from work, right, and it's like, here are some new size 12 Vans, Airwalks, right? Hey, look over there. There's a 2.5 Cinnabon. Someone ate one because they were hungry, carb loaded, bringing you a gift. And then there is a pack of illegal Kentucky fireworks, and that's what's on your coffee table. And on nice letter stock, it just said, "Love that hog, hearts."
got it. That's the.
You would find that adorable.
I think I'd be.
You'd be like, that person's not creepy. That person.
I'll be
really
honest
cares.
with you. The first thing I would think is like, how did this person get in my house? It makes me uncomfortable.
Right? How did this person know everything I love?
also have like I have a healthy. I side with the birds. I have a healthy mistrust of human nature in a lot of ways.
Oh.
So
I would start leaving my door unlocked. If people would just fucking show up in my house and give me gifts because they're like, hey, when you berated me at the pet shop, it just got me really horned up.
Just got me really
and I'm really impressed with what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And they're like, here's a 1982 copy of Mad Magazine, 5 Pez, and 3 stained tank tops from a line cook at a, fucking big Waffle House. I'd be like, holy shit, that is so thoughtful. Thank you.
Yeah. See, like, I think the accepting of the gift is because, like, here, like, okay, think about this from a lot. Like, look, I know that you make a joke, but you and I, we have a healthy mistrust of our fellow man, correct?
Right, because they're not bringing me gifts and acknowledging my powers.
Right, but if someone was to do that, break into your house, bring you a present, that kind of thing, I feel like the expectation would be there's an ulterior motive. Like if someone broke into my house and gave me a present.
For sure, to get
my
sex with
first thought would be, how do they get into my house? And my second thought would be, this person is crazy and I'm fucking locking my door.
After the sex.
Mitch accepting the birds as gifts is what causes the whole thing.
You know what might have drawn the birds is the fucking shallow grave cemetery on top of that sandy lookout.
Yeah, no shit.
Where he's like, got another one. Those were big ass binoculars. You're not looking at the water that much.
But I think that
those are hunting binoculars.
I think that by accepting those caged birds that are not from the bay, by accepting this gift and saying, okay, you are using these birds as a joke. You're not taking nature seriously or at their word.
You're not taking love seriously.
You're not taking love seriously. You're not taking anything seriously.
Or
this is
these
a frivolous
two are
pursuit.
lovebirds themselves caught in a cruel cage of society and sexual gender roles.
Absolutely. Whoa. Mitch accepting that present causes this entire thing. Boom. Enjoy that. Enjoy that, film students.
Mitch's extra pheromones and shallow graves cause this apocalypse.
By the way, I will say this is easily one of my. This is 1963. I think this happens after Psycho or before Psycho.
Oh, this
Can't
was
remember.
After.
Was this after?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've done Psycho on the show before. We've talked a lot about like the ending of Psycho is very specific, and it's it's one of those things where
director of 62 films. Holy shit.
In film school, the ending of Psycho catches a lot of shit because they have to explain what is wrong with Norman.
Okay, so here, just so we can clear this up before you finish, right? He went Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, The Birds, and then Marnie
right after. Yeah, okay, cool.
Torn Curtain, Topaz, Frenzy, Family Plot.
Okay, cool.
So
this comes right after Psycho. So Psycho's ending is there's a huge explanation as to like what happened with Norman. Mm-hmm. So the reason they had to do that was in the 60s, people did not know what psychoanalysts did.
Yeah.
There's nothing that we had to actually there's nothing that we were able to do to like actually explain it. So
we didn't have like a huge true crime industry like we do now.
Right, exactly. There's no podcast to tell us what was going on. Yeah. So Norman Bates's condition was so foreign, so bizarre.
Yeah.
What I love about The Birds ending particularly is that there's nothing like that. It is like that's like for me that's like Hitchcock saying like I finally got the ending I wanted. Like originally he didn't even want to add a like the end title card. He just wanted to fucking end the way it ends, which is Tippy Hedren, which is like Melanie, Mitch, Kathy, and Lydia the mother all walking out to the car while this just like thousands of birds sitting on their property like as they walk to the car, which is fucking terrifying. Another amazing like piece of just tension building.
That final image, like, to me, that's one of those you're like, oh, I'd hang that on a wall in my house.
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, it's that incredible shot of just birds fucking everywhere, the car rolling down. The
Absolutely
birds are
amazing.
sitting there like a blanket. This isn't over. You can't escape this. You might drive down there, but there's probably birds
There's
over
still
there.
Nature. Waiting. There's still nature waiting for you.
And again, because of all this shit that we've watched, right? The omnipresence of these birds, these people falling apart, right? The fraying of the human bonds. The birds don't even have to move at the end, right? We just hear these little sounds. We watch this man cowering before birds, trying to roll his car out, trying to get people in. Shh, don't make sounds. Right? All of these anticlimactic human things, right? Like, we're not fighting our way to the car. We're not revving the engine. We are running, right? Like the barn mouse or the field mouse running from a fucking owl that we know's up there and we can't see. We're running.
All you're hearing is the birds rustling and the sound of the ocean, which is supposed to be calming, and it's absolutely terrifying.
The world without us. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah.
Right? And I think the amount of tension and fear this movie creates is stunning. Because, again, I don't think anyone in their list of like, oh, God, some birds will get me. Like, we have geese out here. I'll never forget, we were at a store, and I was walking Hunter across the parking lot to go to the movies. And we have, like, these ferocious fucking geese here, right? It's actually a local job you can get at the municipality here, is that someone will hire you and a dog to go be, like, goose chasers, right? So a business is like, hey, we got a cranky one today. You show up with your dog, and you fucking run them off, right?
Right.
And yeah, we're walking, and all of a sudden we just hear this. It's like this loud hiss. And I was like, what the fuck? And this goose had made a nest right in the shrub, right by the front door to the movie theater, right? We were going to see Rampage. Hunter was maybe 3. And I go, oh, fuck. I like picked him up. Then all of a sudden behind us, it was like a fucking Living Dead movie. There's just these 5 fucking other geese with their wings out walking across the parking lot at us. And I'm standing there with my kid, and I was like, let's go! Let's go! And I'm like screaming at these geese, and I'm like, I'm going to fucking Muay Thai kick you in your little fucking Gumby necks. I'm going to kill one of you and wear you as underwear and let the others know to fucking be afraid. Funny side story. This is a real story, too. We have this big walking path around our neighborhood, right? We go around the lakes and the ponds.
Right.
And there's all these geese and ducks that live here, right? So a lot of birds around. My house is just swarmed with birds that make nests everywhere. Well, on our walks in the last month, something has been murdering birds. And so on our path, there's just been like 4 or 5 birds just eviscerated. Right. Guts everywhere, feathers, like someone, and I was like, it's just a cat. Like some cat is mangling birds. Well, the other day there was a hawk out there just mangling. It's a pretty big bird, right? Like over a foot. And I was like, something is just eviscerating these things. I'm like, there's probably just like a fucking feral cat or, something a little bigger that's hunting and killing these birds. Hunter got so scared. Him and Amy had been gathering sticks from this tree line by us. And Hunter's been taping rocks to them. Awesome. And so the other day I go out with coffee on my back porch and I see my mother-in-law running down the sidewalk. It looks like she's rowing a canoe side to side. And she's got one of these fucking duct tape rock spears. And I go, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, Hunter's making us train for when the predator comes. So he thinks the birds are a sign that he has to make. So yeah, the delivery guy came today to bring me my fucking workout towels.
Yep.
And we just have fucking spears and it looks like a Lord of the Flies prop shop on my front. And he's like, hey, and like he wouldn't come on my porch to drop the box stuff. I'm like, just fucking throw it from there. It's fine. So, hey man, if it happens, come to the Casa de Griff. We got weapons. We're not afraid. We're chunky boys. We'll fucking smash these fuckers together. And yeah, just come in and bring me your best gifts. Your gifts to me. And my toxic masculinity. What a weird fucking movie.
It's such a weird movie. It's so much fun. It's so funny. Like it's really uncharacteristically funny.
I think Hitchcock had like a real dark sense of humor that's there. I love that.
Yeah, for sure. There's a very There's a very real unsettling thing about the things that he finds funny.
Yeah.
And they're very prevalent in the birds.
Yeah. What a weird fucking just mix. What a weird fucking chimera of a film, right? Like, doesn't make sense on a lot of levels.
I absolutely love it.
It really held up, though. Great time. That's it for the birds, because we will defeat them with our awesome nature. Hopefully that's not if for, Justin Myers just tracking us down. Just, getting all of our data, mining it, right? Really finding out what, the weird part about that is she should have brought a gift for Mitch and not his kid's sister. Like, if you break in my house and leave gifts for my kids, when you're trying to wrestle me, that's strange.
In the future, when they remake the bird, she's bringing him like a thumb drive full of Bitcoin or some shit. That's.
There are 2 thumb drives. One is nudes, one are Bitcoins. Choose your poison.
Choose your poison.
Yeah, like she's not like
that's what will bring the pets.
Here's a 5th of Jack, a box of Magnums. Like most guys would be really into that. No, I'm just kidding. This is weird. This is a weird episode. That's it. All right, guys, that's not it for Animal Attack Month. We still have Monkey Shines. Someone just was like, that's a title that has to be a movie, and what resulted is just strange.
We've really programmed the shit out of this month. I'm super excited.
This month has just been fucking awesome. So guys, great stuff over on our Patreon. So go over there, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. If you want to hear, the big delight this month was the feature-length commentary on Snakes on a Plane.
Oh, my God.
Chef's Kiss, wonderful. So get on over to patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Guys, even $1 a month means the world to us. So thank you for your support, guys. You guys do so much to make us feel loved. Thank you again, patreon.com/filmalchemistpod. Dollars. That's what we do. We want a flock of dollars, right? All over us. Yeah. I'll even take that sound. That's fine. Yeah. Make sure you leave the ratings and reviews wherever you find us. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, Film Alchemist. Email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Find us on all the socials you're on. Share the show there. Invite your friends to come and join us for these just really deep and introspective scholarly talks we've been having.
Yeah, we're pretty scholarly, especially with...
We're pretty fucking scholarly. That's all. We're also very worthy of gifts. Our addresses are easy to find. Just kidding. Our wives will
break into my house, I'll kill you.
I won't. I'll be stoked, but my wife and kids have homemade spears, so watch
there you
out.
Go. My wife's Guatemalan. She always says it's the reason she'll kill whoever breaks into the house.
Yeah, don't mess with the Guatemalans. You'll learn a lesson you don't want to. Neither here nor there for the Film Alchemist. I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.
Evil!
Evil! That's the actual bird sound.
Just smart as hell to both of us.